Howdy y'all, welcome back. Today we're talking about sports nutrition for basketball and we're going to cover the basics. Okay, we're just going to cover three things: calorie balance, what to eat before, during, and after games, and hydration. Let's start with an overview of calorie balance and how food affects weight. So you can see here that there's a scale. And basically the premise is that you have calories in versus calories out. And calories in describes the food that you eat. So either how much food, how often you eat, or how dense are those foods, meaning do they have a lot of calories or a small amount of calories for that food choice. And the combination of all those different things affects how many calories you eat throughout the day. When we're looking at calories out, we're looking at body processes like, your brain and your organs need lots of calories just to function. And then exercise, and that's planned for y'all as an athlete. You're going to go to practice and training. And activity. Activity just means, do you lay around a lot when you're on your own, or do you have active hobbies? Are you moving around? Maybe when you get a phone call and you're talking to somebody, you pace around the room and walk all around. Those sorts of things all add up to give us the calorie balance equation. And what we're going to be focusing on as athletes is the calories in, because the calories out is already kind of predetermined for you. You have to do your training, you have to do your practice, so that's taken care of. You want to focus on how much food you're having, how often, and how dense are those foods. Now, in the big picture, if you eat more calories than you burn, you're going to gain weight. That's actually what you want to do if you're trying to build on muscle. And the opposite is also true. If you eat less calories and you burn more calories, you're going to lose weight. So once again, focus on the calories inside of the equation, dealing with food, because you're already exercising to your maximum ability if you're a college athlete. Your coach doesn't ever have easy days for you guys. So don't try to go and burn a bunch of calories on your own. I want you to focus on nutrition because that's where you're going to get the best bang for your buck. So one of the first things that we talked about was size when it comes to calorie balance. Remember, size or amount or frequency or the density of those foods. Well, I have an easy thing to compare here. If you just look at these portion sizes, you can look at the different amount of calories for just getting a different size of something. So you can see here on the French fries that a small fry is around 230 calories, while a regular fry or even a big fry may be twice as much. So when it comes to food choices, if you need to consume less, if your goal is fat loss, then you're going to eat smaller portions in general. Get the small size of anything when you order it, so on. If your goal is the opposite and you're trying to get more energy or gain weight, then you want to make sure that you eat a bigger portion size of anything that you choose. And it's really that simple. Eating more food gives you more calories. Eating less food gives you less calories. The next thing you need to consider is frequency, or in other words, how many times a day are you having a snack or a meal or whatever. So if you're somebody that has trouble putting on muscle and gaining weight, usually when I'm looking at an athlete like that, they are skipping breakfast and they don't have any snacks throughout the day. Then by the end of the day, sure, they're hungry, they eat a big dinner or a big snack maybe before bed, but it's very hard to catch up on all those calories if you haven't been starting off with a good breakfast and snacks throughout the day. So you may want to ask yourself, how many meals or snacks am I eating in a day? Now the opposite is also true if you're trying to lose fat or reduce your weight. If you are snacking throughout the day, you may be eating extra calories that you don't really need. So in that case, you may want to reduce it down to 1, maybe 2 snacks a day and try not to eat throughout the day or while you're busy, and those sorts of things can help. The other thing about frequency is that there are sometimes foods and all the times foods. And we're going to talk about that more when we get into calorie density. But there are foods for your goal that you know that you need to eat often. There are foods that may taste good or be easy, but aren't necessarily conducive to your goal. As an athlete, you need to fuel your body with the right sort of things. Having something like a chicken tender basket with fries and a Coke may taste really good, but you need to ask yourself, am I doing this all the time, or am I doing this in moderation and just having this sometimes? I don't have anything against fast food. I don't have anything against burgers and fries. You shouldn't either. But as an athlete, you need to take a look at the frequency of which you're having your burger and fry meal. And if it's, 5-6 days a week, you may need to reconsider if your goal is to either maintain your weight or lose weight, eating those sorts of things all the time. Now, on the opposite end, if you look at the amount of fruits and vegetables you eat throughout the day, and you find that on most days you're only getting 1 or 0 servings of fruit or vegetable, then you probably need to bump those frequencies up so that you're having them more often. So frequency matters and size matters. Now let's get to my third point. Now we've covered the amount of food that you eat, or in other words, portion size. We've talked about frequency, so we can increase or decrease the amount of calories we eat throughout the day by having more or less snacks. The third thing that we're going to talk about, as you can see here, is the calorie density of foods. Now, certain foods, just because of the size they are and the amount of nutrition packed into them, are either considered calorie dense or nutrient dense, or light, or whatever you want to call it. It's more easily understood if you look at this image here. So you can see that things like fruits and vegetables and proteins will really fill up your stomach and give you a lot of food for a very small amount of calories. So for an athlete trying to reduce weight or avoid weight gain, you really want to focus on eating a good amount of proteins and fruits and vegetables for every meal. If you looked at the athlete training plates and the examples that I've given you, now this really makes sense and you can start to understand why I give you those portions. Now the opposite is also true if we looked at things like processed carbs and fats. Those offer a lot of calories but don't offer a lot of volume. So what they can do is they can give you a lot of energy without making you feel full. So looking at this, you may be thinking, well, some of these foods are going to work better for my goals and some of these foods maybe not so much. And that's exactly the point. An athlete that is trying to gain weight and gets full really easily, like you just seem to eat and you can't put on muscle or gain weight, you may want to have foods that are higher in fat or higher amount of carbohydrates to help you get in that extra energy without making you feel full. Especially if you lose weight during the season, right? You may get to a certain weight in the off season, and then after you play through the season, you notice that you've lost, 5 pounds or so. You may want to eat more calorie dense foods. Now the opposite is also true if you're trying to cut back on calories and reduce the amount that you're eating. Once again, having a plate full of lean proteins and lots of fruits and vegetables is going to be your friend. Now before we go on to the next part, I just want to conclude on one point here, is that there are no foods that are off limits and there's no such thing as a good or a bad food. You understand the science here of calories and what's more or less dense. It's up to you to choose things that are going to help you as an athlete, but also keep you on track. We don't want to choose foods that you hate or you don't like, but you may need to apply yourself here and focus a little bit. So we talked about portion size, frequency, and now calorie density of foods. So you have those 3 considerations when you're making food choice if you're trying to get more energy, more calories, or less.